Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. One thing I've learned in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are, get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. Joining me today is a woman who reshaped New Zealand television. She is a friend. She's an award-winning creator and producer of reality, or as she likes to call it, unscripted formats. Her shows include Game of Two Halves, Treasure Island, The Block, Dragon's Den, This Is Your Life, the founder of Touchdown Productions, now CEO and owner of nzherald Worldwide, our queen of the small screen, Dame Julie Christie.
Good morning, Paula.
Good morning. It's a bit odd, eh? A little bit odd.
It is a little odd, but I knew that we'd be competing colour-wise, so even though I know this is audio, I knew you'd come out in a brighter colour than me, even when I chose my brightest.
Second outfit for me this morning.
Is it?
Yeah, I was walking out the door and wasn't quite happy that it was
I was just thinking
enough.
You must have a separate house for your clothes.
Just about. The husband gets not even a coat hanger in the walk-in wardrobe.
Yeah.
Entirely appropriate.
It is really, yeah. You are remarkable in your outfits. In fact, I think that, they used to call Hillary Clinton the queen of the pantsuit. You've well and truly taken over, I think.
They're easy, though. She's in a wonderful green pantsuit today. And they are easy, though, aren't they?
They are, and very in fashion this season.
I like that. Okay, I've got two house rules, which are really easy. One is I can ask you anything, but you don't have to answer.
I probably will, but that's okay.
Yeah, and that's easy. And then the other is, which I know you live your life by as well, which is, as my daughter and I call it, the no judgy. We just don't judge people because that's... Okay, let's do some quick fire. Favourite podcasts at the moment? What are you listening to?
I have to confess I listen to quite a lot of American true crime just because I find it fascinating and quite a bit from BBC Sounds, to be honest, because I find it fascinating how they've managed to create documentary in the audio form, the way they use interview, voiceover, the way they use sound effects, music. I'm just finding the sophistication of the storytelling, and particularly in some of the BBC podcasts, fascinating. So I must confess, mostly I listen to overseas podcasts.
And Australia's getting better, I reckon, as well. So is New Zealand, but I must admit I listen to quite a few of the Australian ones.
Teacher's Pet changed everything. The ABC one. Do you know that one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Teacher's Pet changed everything. And it's interesting because without that podcast, there never would have been a charge or a guilty verdict. And I tend to like those ones which achieve some result.
Yeah. Have you listened to The Lady Vanishes?
No.
Oh, well, I'm going to put you onto that one, and I'm not going to do the spoiler, but that literally makes a change, a bit like the Teacher's Pet.
I can recommend Up and Vanished, which is the Tara Grinstead story, which is an amazing American one, which also resulted in a trial, but not the way you think. So.
Well, that's good. We like that. And do you cook? What's your go-to meal?
Yes, I cook all the time. I don't really have a go-to. I'm a big collector of recipes and recipe books. And yes, I love cooking because, as you know, I love dinner parties. And I'll cook all the time.
Yeah, it's my relaxer.
It is. I find it really relaxing. I find cooking incredibly relaxing. I'm happy to spend an entire day cooking for a dinner party that night. I find it really relaxing.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about your work ethic a bit later because it's extraordinary, and that's where I think we'll get some advice on how we work harder, smarter, how you got some of the breaks, and that sort of advice we can give to people on how you sort of step up and in, which I think is part of your extraordinary story. I've been talking to Sir Michael Hill and Sir John Key in the last couple of weeks, so that's been really interesting. And here I am with Dame Julie, so we've gone Sir Dame, but in that context as well, guys from very humble beginnings that had an incredible work ethic and an incredible desire for change and to sort of step up and in. And it's not dissimilar to you.
Poverty is a heck of a driver. It really is, we were poor when I grew up, and I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't a big driver. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but boy, it buys you freedom. And, to have the freedom to make choices in your life is what, has always been really important to me. So while I was in a creative industry where I loved making the television, the driver was the business side to me, and that's at that time when I first started in television kind of set me apart. So I think that having come from a background where you could only dream of things, it definitely gives you a different attitude.
Because that is quite, because that sort of reality TV and the huge influence that you've had in that worldwide, quite frankly. But you went from someone who was working for someone else, you were successful in that, you'd obviously found your groove. But I was just thinking the confidence you had to then go and start up your own business is something I didn't have in my 20s.
I think that when I came into television from newspapers, when the newspaper I was working on closed down, I came into television from newspapers, and so I had this basic writing skill, which is the most important skill, I think, in television. And immediately, over the 3 years that I worked for someone else, my ideas kept getting picked up and made, so I had a confidence that at 27, I'd finally found something I was good at. Now, I believe everybody's got something they're good at, just not everyone finds it. So I was like pretty ordinary until I was 27, and then kind of like I walked into a television production company, and it's like, the light bulb literally went on and everything changed. And so when you start to get a little bit of success and a little bit more and a little bit more, you do get that confidence. So I actually went out by myself because I asked for a pay rise and they said no, which is pretty funny now.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I was earning $45,000 and I said I would like $70,000. And I said, because I know that I'm bringing in most of the work, which was pretty bold at the time. And they said no. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go out by myself. But of course, the first doco I made was Rachel Hunter Covergirl, just after she'd, the doco I just made was just after she'd married Rod Stewart, and I'd talked him into doing an interview at the time when he didn't do many interviews. So I was just coming off the back of the highest rating documentary ever in this country. So and I think it probably still is the highest rating. And so I had confidence more than anything.
And so for that then you must also, as well as kind of knowing what we want to watch, you also then had that skill where you could get people to talk about their lives or go on screen that perhaps wouldn't have. Is that an example?
I think I had tenacity, like there's this great scenario, if you can't get in the door, you go in the window, and then, I had tenacity, I just kept trying it, I just didn't give up. I think that I first started out, I made 13 documentaries before I went near unscripted television, right? So it's when I worked out that I wanted an international business and that New Zealand could compete in the world of unscripted. So making entertainment formats was something we could compete in. I didn't want a business reliant on government funding. Yeah. A lot of the creative industries in New Zealand are, and I didn't want that business. And therefore, that is what kind of drove me into the genre I ended up in, was that was the place where New Zealand could make a mark on the world. And as it turned out, that was true, because over time, as a country, we started to become a bit of a leader in formats. We're not now. We tend to follow. We don't lead anymore. But as a country, when it comes to television. But at that time, that was the opportunity. So the genre I ended up in, unscripted, or which is the term for anything which isn't scripted, which means isn't drama, was really driven by what the market wanted. So again, it was the business lens over my creative abilities.
And you bringing that in, and we all watched it, right? We watched it with, mouths open and absolutely mesmerised by it. And we talked about it at work the next day, over the water cooler kind of thing. And
Treasure Island is in its 17th season.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say, though. So then do you look back, because you got criticisms then, and, because people are like, it's, had not so much cheap TV, but those highfalutin wanted to sort of look down their noses. And now when you look at TV, I mean, gosh, more than half of it must be unscripted, is it? I don't know.
Well and truly more than half of it. And to be honest, a lot of it I wouldn't make.
No.
I would struggle to make Married at First Sight, because handling the talent behind the scenes when the cameras have turned off is very difficult. We did make a lot of shows that I guess some people talked about, usually the critics out in these rooms behind me, but like I'll never forget, we got funded a show called The GC, which was about the success of young Maori on the Gold Coast, who most have the same scenario. I want to earn enough money to buy mum a house back home, and it showed their work and their partying lifestyle, and we thought it was great. Some people were so outraged that it wasn't worthy enough, that was showing them being party boys who loved girls and, went to nightclubs, but then worked really hard and saved their money to buy mum back in Taranaki the house. Some people were so outraged, they asked John Key a question about it in Parliament.
Wow.
Why are we funding this rubbish? The fact that everyone was watching it, and it was actually... And John actually said, well, as far as I'm aware, everyone's watching it. That's all they're funding it, which actually was the sort of thing he would say. He wouldn't put up with that, that sort of silly criticism. But so we tended to take subjects and put a different lens on them. Like, what's wrong with the fact that they live hard and work hard and play hard? Why do we only need to show a worthy side of these young men? So that's the sort of thing we tried to do, and I still try to do it. I still try to do things differently from what other people would do.
So it's a cutthroat business in TV, and as I said, you've had some of the criticisms over the years about reality TV and your involvement in it. You've had to make the hard decisions, but does it hurt when you know how hard you're working, the difference you're making, and yet people can sort of sit back behind a keyboard and have their say?
You know what, I became, less so now, but I became, at the time when I was successful, very addicted to ratings. So ratings would come out at 9:30 every morning, and there was absolutely nothing better than, 1 million people had watched Treasure Island.
Yeah.
That has always been the buzz for me. The fact that you were judged every single day on television because of the rating system. So when it came to the criticism, I guess earlier in my career, it would get me down. I remember a headline in a Wellington newspaper about a show I made called The Money Game, and it said, crap TV, thy name is Julie Christie. And I thought, oh gosh, this is, I've got a PR problem. And I kind of went rushing off to see Jenny Raynish, who's the famous PR guru. And she was so funny. She said, look, you chose this genre. They're never going to say nice things about you. She said, unless you got run over by a bus, no one's going to say anything good. So the smartest thing for you to do is to go off overseas and make your name. And when you come back, then they'll like you.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? She was 100% right. That's exactly what I did. So I just started to work my way more into the international market where there was more respect for that genre.
And did you get a tougher shell?
Very much now.
Yeah.
Oh, now it doesn't keep me awake at night. No.
But how do you work your way through that then? I'm someone that's had to do that as well.
Because,
1 million people watched it last night, and one journalist has decided they'll have a swipe.
Yeah, and they do. They get the haters get a lot of column inches.
Yeah.
Because that's their job now. I think, probably the demise of journalism has been the fact that it's pretty much all opinion now.
Do we have a tall poppy syndrome in New Zealand?
Oh,
yes,
very much.
Knock them down?
Very much. And it's a bit of a pity, really. But... it's like, the older you get, the people who you care about, at the same time I was getting criticised, I was getting work on government boards. I started on New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, So my entrepreneurial skills were being recognised. So I was getting business recognition. I was getting bashed by supposed critics who wouldn't know how to make a television show anyway. But at the same time, I was getting really good board work. I was learning a lot, NZTE, and then and Rugby World Cup. So I had another side to my life where my skills were appreciated. So it wasn't as bad for me. When I got my damehood, it was pretty savage by one, particular journo. But in the end, I think, I knew why.
You knew why. We knew why. So talk to us a bit about what you're doing now.
So NHNZ it was Natural History New Zealand. It started out as the Natural History Unit of TVNZ. It's more than 35 years old, but TVNZ sold it to Fox out of the out of the US, and it was owned by Fox for most of its life, and then it was owned by a Canadian company, and I bought it 2 years ago. So it's a Dunedin-based company. Mostly their past is in natural history documentaries, wildlife, but always for the international market. So I deliberately bought a company which I felt could work in the international market. I like the budgets better, that won't surprise you. But also, I really do get a big buzz from doing the deals. That's what I love. It's hard to make the shows, but I love doing the deals.
Yeah.
And so that's really, it's great. I'm off to Tasmania for 2 weeks next week to make a show for Discovery UK. So we make shows for broadcasters all over the world. And we've got a climate change series for PBS, which is a big public broadcaster in the US. Who would have thought? Julie Christie and climate change documentaries. See?
Yeah, you don't know.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. And you've done a lot. So, when you sold your original company and then you've been a restaurateur, but I really want to talk about the Rugby World Cup. And look, I just admire the role that you played last year in our Women's Rugby World Cup. I just deeply do, and I don't think that, quite frankly, I don't think that's been noticed by the country enough as to what you did. But you were involved, you were on the board of the men. So your role with the women's last year, you were the president.
Chair.
The chair.
Of the organising committee.
I mean, it was an extraordinary tournament and for so many reasons. But the planning beforehand and I want to say the risks you took and to actually reach that level of success. Can you talk to us a bit about that and that thinking and the work that went on behind the scenes and before we all got to see it?
Well, I was on the board in 2011, and I think in 2011 success was inevitable. It was. We knew the tournament was going to be incredibly successful. You could tell. You could tell by the ticket sales. You could tell by many things. And don't forget, a tournament, when you're an organiser, it's not judged by whether the All Blacks win it, because that's the very last moment of the tournament. Yeah. It's judged by the belief that they will throughout, which gets your ticket sales and that. Now, I remember, the government spent $250 million, I think probably in your time, $250 million on Eden Park, on refurbing Eden Park. Yeah, I don't know where that went. And huge, and it was a government NZR joint venture. Enormous amount of money was spent on it, incredibly, and it was a huge success. And every rugby player in the world will tell you that New Zealand, when you go to New Zealand, they love the way the country loves rugby so much. So for a lot of the women who came last year, they usually would play in front of very small audiences, but they knew when they came to New Zealand they would actually have big crowds to play in front of, and that really meant a lot. So when it came to chairing the Rugby World Cup 2021 playing in 2022, the hardest thing, I guess, was that COVID hit in the middle and had to be delayed. I remember the many hours that our tournament director, Michelle Hooper, spent just worrying about how we were going to pay for the MIQ for all those teams. Wow, because we had to pay. Oh, did you? The scenario was that if they had to, I said we had to pay. Well, the government was trying to be fair to everyone. And so it was very, very difficult. But at the same time, I think there was less pressure on it because it was a Women's Rugby World Cup and because less was expected, except for us. We dreamed big. It was like, we can fill Eden Park. And I'll never forget this time last year, I was at the NZPR Awards. At that time, I was on the Board of Development West Coast, and we were up for a prize, and I was at the PR Awards and was sitting at a table with some other people, and there was a guy there who'd been involved in rugby administration. He actually was the head pilot for Air New Zealand. I'm dobbing him in here. Yeah. And he said to me, "You are so dreaming. People just don't care about women's rugby. You are never going to fill Eden Park." He literally said that to me. Wow. And I know who he is now, and I keep thinking I should say something back. But for someone like me, that's like red rag to a bull. I didn't say anything at the time, but I just thought, just you watch it. Yeah, just you wait and see. Yeah, and so, we worked really hard at the in-park experience, which I think is a big problem for sport in this country. We don't give people a good enough experience when they go to the actual game. Unlike if you go to any American, I just been to baseball over there a few weeks ago, basketball, the in-stadium experience is so fantastic. People want to go. It's better than watching it on television. Yeah. And we need to sort that out, I think. in this country for sport generally. But we put a lot of emphasis on making it great to go. And, I mean, I've got an 11-year-old stepdaughter and she was just bursting to go. And, she doesn't know anything about rugby. She just wanted to be part of the experience. So we really concentrated not on the rugby lover, but on people wanting to be part of an experience. And, thanks to, Michelle Hooper and a great team, it worked.
Yeah.
And as you came along with me, and that feeling when I got to walk out and present the medals and stand out in the middle of the of Eden Park, and when you look up and and it just looks like there's people forever. And when Ruby was singing, it was just phenomenal. It was one of the great feelings of my life, And then, of course, I believe you were with my daughter, and suddenly I heard this scream. That's my mother.
Yeah.
Which was, typically my daughter. But, a wonderful experience. But born out of just you watch us. And I don't think, even though it was a governance role, which is usually strategy and you keep your hands off, it was more a hands-on role because we were left to a degree to our own devices.
Yeah.
You know what we've done with women's sport is it's priced to absolutely get people to come along.
Yeah.
I mean, I was absolutely determined that we were not going to give away tickets. And to be honest, in 2011, we gave away a lot of tickets. We had to because when we lost Christchurch due to the earthquakes, we had to bring all these extra matches elsewhere. And so, people had bought their rather expensive World Cup tickets, so we ended up having to give away quite a lot.
Yeah.
We didn't give away any tickets to the women's. I was like, no way are we saying that it's free to watch women's rugby.
Yeah.
And it had always been. We had never charged, ever. Women's rugby has always been like a curtain raiser to men's. No one's paid to go on the gate. So I'm very proud that, we didn't have to give tickets away to fill those stadiums.
Yeah. Well, I think we were all ready for that sense of pride in our country again as well, and even just holding the event. I mean, the fact we won is fantastic, right? But seeing all of those women just gave us that real opportunity. I think we were all ready to be to have that sense of pride again after it being quite a sort of rough time everywhere. But
I think we were, and we do love that. I mean, I'm a real patriot like you, and I think there's a lot of patriotism missing in our country. I mean, I love the way Americans and Australians absolutely love their country. We've got just a little too much of the British kind of like, let's not be too positive. And I virtually all the boards I've been on, and I got my Dame for governance, and it's always been about what's better for our country. Like the flag consideration panel, which is one of my favourites. Like that was always to me about how do we,
have that sense of pride.
Yeah, how do we make it better for New Zealand? How do we make us shine on the world stage?
Yeah.
And I was on the board of World Expo Dubai 2020 again. We shone. And I really, really believe in that. Those are the sort of things that interest me. So when it comes to, the fact that it was an event and it was over in 3 years, that's perfect for me.
Yeah.
I'm not still talking about it now.
You got to dig in and do that. Okay, we're going to come back really shortly and get advice from Julie about, how we step up and in and how we can change our lives. Okay, Julie, when I think of you, I think relentless work ethic. I think someone that has got that ability to think further ahead into where something might actually go if you drive it correctly. You're someone I go to advice to, particularly when I was leaving politics or when I was making changes or, sort of thinking about what
Don't do TV, I said, Paula. Paula, don't make it your life. Get a real job, I said, Paula. Never rely on it for your income.
She did multiple times, and then I just had to point out a couple of times that I am still a bit of a show pony, so I needed some outlet there, but that's all good fun. So where does the work ethic come from? I mean, you've talked about your mum before, your siblings. I mean, I know all of them. Saw your sister last week, by the way, up north. Yeah.
Which I've got a couple.
Yeah.
People say, I saw your brother. I go, which one?
Yeah.
Got 4,
But they've all got their degrees of success as well. And for the family from Greymouth, that education was important, wasn't it?
Oh, incredibly important to my mother. I mean, I was 5 when my father died. So Leo would have been about 9 or 10, So I was, and I guess that my mother wouldn't accept charity, which she thought was charity. So we grew up, where everything was kind of like hand sewn and hand knitted and that sort of thing, and porridge for breakfast. Oh my God, I hate porridge.
Oh really? Yeah.
The sight of porridge makes me ill. But anyway, so I guess the way we saw what Mum went through to bring us up, and therefore it was expected that you would achieve, education-wise. I went to Catholic schools, and the truth is I actually, didn't like school, wanted to get out of school, which is, and I applied for everything, teachers college. Imagine me if I'd been a teacher, which was 3 years. I got into that, and I got into graphic arts, which was 2 years, and then I got into journalism school, which is 1 year, and I chose journalism school because I only wanted 1 year of poverty. So the fact that was how I ended up in journalism, and then in newspapers, then in television, just because I only wanted to be poor for 1 year as a student. So I think the work ethic really came from an expectation and a dream. I was a big dreamer, big imagination, And I think that's been the driver. And like I said, success is addictive. And, failure to me has always been a driver.
Yeah.
I get deeply hurt by failure, but the hurt lasts 5 minutes before I go again.
Yeah.
So you tell me no, and I won't go to sleep until I've worked out how to get to yes. And that's just a way I think. But I'm just a little bit more relaxed about it as I get older.
Yeah. I remember with my daughter, and it was the day after my 50th birthday, and a few of us had gone for dinner and you were there, and the next morning she just went, I have got to spend more time with Julie. She said, I was sitting there and Julie was asking about my life, and I said, well, actually, I'm really lucky. And she said, Julie would have said,
there's no such thing as good luck. It's good timing and good management. There is no such thing as good luck.
Yeah, and that's what my Anna said.
You tell me when you were last lucky, and I'll tell you actually it was good timing and good management.
That's what she was like. She's like, well, did you choose your husband? Because she was like, well, I've got a great marriage, I've got a good job, I've got a good, do you choose that person?
It's the timing, probably. But people so many times people have said to me, oh, you're so lucky. And you don't say anything back, but sometimes I say, lucky? What's lucky about how hard I've worked? Or what's lucky about, where I came from? I think that people quite often say, oh, you're so lucky. It's kind of like a throwaway line.
Yeah.
But I just don't think we should teach our kids that luck's got anything to do with it.
So what is a good work ethic?
Well, the best thing of all you can do is absolutely do something you love. So it took me till I was 27, like I said, to find something I was really good at. And if your job can be your passion, then, that makes your great work ethic. I've done jobs. My first job was actually working in the hospital laundry when I was just before I went off to Polytech. So, I've done all sorts of jobs. That was a tough job. But I think that if you can take pride in it, or you can be the best at it, like I often think, when you spend a lot of time in hotel rooms, as you probably do, you tend to notice what a great hotel room is like, or how good they are. I imagine if you're a housemaid in a hotel room, you can still be really great at your job because you just do the best.
Yeah.
So the best that you can be, I think, is the great work ethic. And don't blame your work unhappiness on everybody else. What can I control? What I can control is what I can make better. So I always tried to make better the things I could control. The things I couldn't control, what can you do about it? Yeah.
So the people that work for you, you've often said you'll never work, no one will work harder than you.
Maybe,
in the past, in particular, I suppose. We're all at different points. And I know certainly when I was in campaigns or, running for Parliament, that sort of thing, I relied a lot on volunteers. And I always used to think, I will ask nothing of you that I wouldn't do myself. And that means putting a pamphlet in a letterbox. It means, waving a sign on the side of the road and looking like an idiot. I'll be there an hour before you get there with the muffins to say thank you, because I just think that is part of standing up and being in that sort of leadership. So and you've had a lot of people work for you over the
Yeah, I mean, I have, I can think of nothing worse than being a political volunteer, actually.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
I could never knock on people's doors.
No.
I have had a lot of really, really great people, and I've had the pleasure of starting a lot of really good careers, too, especially with talent, because that's probably my skill most of all is talent direction and, teaching, people like Matthew Ridge and Mark Ellis, how to be, like their success was really born out of this thing we did where the camera was always the third mate, and those, we sometimes forget how big those two were,
Yeah.
A lot of people, who I kind of gave television breaks to, I look now and, and you're really proud of how well they've done. But I think creative industries generally, people work really hard. What I've found, I guess, over the years is I set up my life so I could work really hard, right? We had a live-in nanny right from the beginning. I set up my life so I could put the hours in. You don't see people do that now. People have their family life puts a lot more pressure on them than when I first started in television.
Do you think there's just an expectation that parents are more present?
Very much so, and it should be too, and particularly that fathers are very present. It's much more a partnership parenting. And so, because I'd set up my life, I had the freedom to do that. Now, you don't expect so much of your staff because they expect to be there to put their kids to bed and stuff like that. And my children, especially my daughter, who will be the first to tell you, Mum wasn't there. Mum was so often... I spent a lot of time in the States for 3 years. I commuted. And so that has made a very big difference to how much capacity people have. And creative industries are about time. So it's not about putting something on a computer and overnight something happens. It's about you have to spend a lot of time.
Yeah. So the expectations are different now, as you say.
Oh, enormously different. And so they should. I should have had more work-life balance. I didn't have because I was so, that bit of that fear of poverty, but, that drive for success, that obsession with winning, that wanting to be... I wanted to be a player in the international, television world, more than New Zealand because I felt like I couldn't be in New Zealand because you just get smashed.
It's funny though, even, if someone asked me if I had regrets about, how hard I worked and what I did, for me it was, I wish I'd been a bit more present in my daughter's life from that sort of age of 13 to 16, 17. And I think it was because I'd sort of struggled so much before then and I was finally making some money. I finally had a bit of control, which was really exciting. And then, and I would say, no, I will be home to cook dinner tonight and, and then look down and go, it's 7:45.
And you do get home and cook dinner and they go into their bedroom and they want to stay in their bedroom.
Yes. Yeah.
Or is it when you think, I'm being a good mother, I'm going to try and talk to my kids and they don't want, they're like, Mum, is what they used to say things like, is kind of like, is mum time over yet? Can I just go on?
Yeah. Oh, my daughter called it forced fun. Okay, we had the forced fun,
they don't want to hang with you that much.
Yeah.
But, I listened to your podcast with Kerry Woodham and I was laughing when she was talking about they still know you're always there for them. She was talking about, being no matter what time of the day, you will always, they can ring you up and you will always be there for them. And I still have my phone on all night, like I would never turn my phone off. And it's pretty bizarre, really, given that they're now 28 and 26. And I'm still expecting a call in the middle of the night saying, Mum, we need you.
Yeah.
That scenario, that's different. And I mean, I certainly didn't have that with my mother. My mother would be too scared to come home late or anything anyway. So
I feel like children are getting a bit lazier, or there's this expectations that everything will be done for them and around them, and they can put their face in these screens. And I worry about their work ethic.
I think they expect a huge amount of the employer.
Yeah, it's
really hard to be an employer. People are 80%, 90% of your issues when you're an employer. I think that, is it that they're not prepared to work hard, or they just expect, it's just their expectation that life is easier, that life is balanced, that they will have a lot of coffee breaks, that they must have their lunch at their set time every day, no matter how busy they are or whatever deadlines they've got to meet. I think that we have, as a country, convinced them that they have a right to an easier life.
Yeah.
I notice it a lot in television, but I don't see it in American television.
No. So what do we do? I mean, what's...
Well, they've got. I guess we convince them that they are the author of their own success, because there's less of that now. I think, that when you expect things to be handed to you on a plate, when you expect that you will have a pay rise every single year, no matter how you perform, or you expect that you will rise up in the company rather than realising that actually I'm the author of my own success or my own demise. So, convince them that they can find that something that they're the best at, but also convince them that there's a lot. We've really diminished personal responsibility in every part of our lives, not only work.
Yeah, true.
Everything, and that be whether right through to a thing that really irks me, which is sentencing in this country. The way we let mothers away with lesser sentences than the men they're allowed to kill their children.
Yeah.
We just do not put enough emphasis on personal responsibility in this country, and that is what we've done to our children.
So what advice would you give young Julie?
Chill a bit.
Yeah.
I don't sweat the small stuff. I mean, I've had a great life, I really have had a great life, a great work career, and that's enabled me to, to travel, and my family, and my children to have a very good life. I just think that probably I could have relaxed a bit more in my early career. What I can't say is, does that mean I would have had the international success? Because I'm normal in the US television. The way the hours I work, the things the drive, that's absolutely normal in US television. I look at a guy like Taylor Sheridan. I'm not sure. Do you watch Yellowstone?
Yes, obsessed.
So he's making all those shows. That man must be working 25 hours a day. He writes all those shows. Otherwise, he can't be doing it. So my sort of drive is pretty normal in the market I've worked mostly in, which is in the US. So
well, I remember when I was doing the Give Us a Clue and we were filming 3 in a day, and I said to you, I'm exhausted. And you went, well, the Chase does 6.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And you know why the Chase probably does 6? Probably because Bradley says, I can do 6, let's get them done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did my game show in the US, The Chair, with John McEnroe. I did in the US and in Britain, and we managed to get out about 2.5 a day. So you were doing pretty well at 3.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of talent wrangling, and Give Us a Clue.
A lot.
Talent wrangling.
But in some respects, they were easier than, quite frankly, the public, because at least they knew when the camera went on to perform. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, I mean, I would G them up beforehand and tell them.
You were dealing with professional talent there too. And they really do. And they're better and better. The rise of New Zealand comedy has seen better and better performance. So you weren't dealing with kind of like reluctant celebrities.
I was going to say,
who go on Celebrity Treasure Island for the money and then don't deliver anything.
Yeah. These, and I would say to them, we can do this quickly or we can do it long. There's your camera, perform.
They'll always go for the quick.
They will always go for the quick. All right, Julie, bit of balance in this podcast. So this is the moment that you get to ask me anything.
Oh, I'm really excited about this. I was going to ask you the secret of a happy marriage, actually. But seeing you and Alan together, I think I already know that. I think it's fishing. I think it's the fact that you like fishing as well. But I guess what I'd really like to ask you is, tell me about, your mural campaign. Because I can tell that you've already started. I can tell that you're sowing the seeds, and that the momentum will build over the next year or two until you'll finally announce that you're going to run for Auckland Mayor. I think you're insane if you do, because I think what's going on now is showing that democracy is a lot harder to work than dictatorships. But come on,
honestly, I love what I do, and I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love Bailey's, and I genuinely do. And
it's a great place to work.
Yeah, it is a great place to work. I love that I get to do podcasts. I've had this great variety. I now, I knew it at the time, and I can look back and go that when I left Parliament, I was exhausted and probably slightly traumatised, so that took me quite a way to work through. And I landed in such a wonderful place to do that. I had my husband I could actually get to know a bit more. I had a great work environment and all that sort of thing. But like everyone, I spent my summer going, so what does the next 5 or 10 years look like for me? and what is that? And for me, I went, I have got something else big in me. And I don't know what that is, right? But I feel it and I feel excited about it. And so then I suppose what the next 12 months is for me is working out where that is and what that is.
You're avoiding the question.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it is, but I do get excited about it. And I know I've got something in me. And when you were talking about doing something you love, I must admit in the back of my head, I went, whether you like it or not, Paula, you love politics.
But local body politics, Paula.
Well, here's my secret. There is a part of me that would like to run my own show.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the weakness of local body politics is that the mayor actually has so little power.
Well, I feel like I have been second to wonderful men, and I mean that genuinely. And they have opened doors for me, and they are wonderful. I shouldn't say they have been, but they have been instrumental in my career, and I've still got one, right? I've still got a chief, managing director whom I have so much respect and admiration for. I get kind of excited about the fact that actually it would be up to me.
Do you really think being the Auckland mayor, you are running your own ship though?
Yeah, I do. And I think that I would have a very different style of leadership, and I believe that I could bring people with me. And I think if I brought the city with me, then I could bring perhaps more councillors and they could see the merits of making the city great. Because I love New Zealand, like you were saying. We're both really
I worry about New Zealand though.
Yeah, I do too. So do I sit back and moan?
No, I mean... Or
if you've got the ability...
Yeah. If you've got the energy, because you know what, I could never be a politician just because the sheer stacks of papers you've got to read, and that does absorb your life.
Yeah.
I've seen you and what you and Simon Bridges went through. You're on the phone day and night. It absorbs you. It completely, utterly would absorb your life. I mean, and going back to that, having done it already, having a slightly more relaxed time, then going back again, which is kind of what I did. I gave up television for 10 years, and then I've gone back again. I still ask myself why.
Yeah.
But I think that's great because you have got a remarkable energy. But I think you might have just admitted that you're going to do it.
I don't know. I've got 12 months to work that out in my own head.
I think you already have worked it out in your own head.
Possibly, but I reserve the right to change my mind at any particular time until it...
I suspect, here's a bet, in 5 years' time I'll say to you, what were you thinking?
Yeah, and I'll go, I don't know, Julie, I don't know. Okay, Julie, thanks for joining me today and for your question and sharing your wisdom and advice. It has been absolutely great to chat. Where can people find more from you? Can we look at any of that's happening in the natural history New Zealand?
We just had a series called Big Blue Backyard on TVNZ. Oh. Yes, yeah. And most of our broadcasters broadcast, we either broadcast into New Zealand, like, Discovery and things like that. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, okay. I think, television is television. I think I have it in me probably to do another event like Women's Rugby World Cup, as long as it was one where I was sure we could win and make an impression on the stage.
You do love being a winner.
And why didn't we change that flag, Paula?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was our chance to come out from under the shadow of Australia and we didn't.
Yeah. And that's always going to be a bit of a shame. Okay, that is Ask Me Anything for another episode. If you want to get in touch, my email is askpaula@nzherald.co.nz. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram or LinkedIn. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do make sure you follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also read my weekly column in the Herald on Sunday. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.